You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, or hopefully it's welcome back to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. You are watching the Underdog Show, where my guests share their authentic stories of certain things they've had to overcome in their lives. And we always appreciate people, their transparency, and just wanting to help others by sharing their story. I am your host, executive producer, director, and broadcast engineer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. And my guest today is a man I've interviewed before. He has an incredible story. Let's bring him on. Let's welcome Alan to the program. Hi, Alan. How are you?
Great. And thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So as I mentioned, I've interviewed you before and I was really blown away by your story. But before we get to that, would you share with our audience, what is it that you're currently doing today and how do you help other people?
Currently, I run 2 nonprofits, 3 businesses, and I'm working on a new program called I'm Crazy Great, which illustrates to people that no matter what age you are, you can fulfill your dreams and continue to help others.
That's fantastic. And Alan, what was it that led you to do this type of work?
Well, through the various programs that I do, most everybody at some point in my life has said, you're crazy for doing it. It's not going to pay off. There's no profit in it. So why do it? Well, bottom line is because 1, I believe in it. 2, I know it would help people in some way, some form. And that is the main drive versus trying to be a rich billionaire or anything of that nature. So assisting people and helping them fulfill their dreams is the main reason.
And isn't that wonderful? We need so much more of that in the world today. So congratulations to you for doing that, and thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and it's something I've been doing since I was a teenager, so it seems natural for me.
So, Alan, when we look at you today, you've got that beautiful blue background behind you and you're smiling and you look healthy and well. You've overcome some pretty challenging things that I think might surprise our audience. And I'd love for you to just start your story wherever it is that you'd like to.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, there's been many challenges over my lifetime. Having to deal with a prison sentence for 8 years, which in itself was pretty tough, coming out of there and not getting any assistance from anywhere to rebuild your life. You have to pretty much do it on your own. It was a challenge in itself, but I've had other challenges throughout my life. Losing my only parent what I say my only parent, mother who raised me at a young age, going through a lot of different things, but all of that, I mean, it makes you stronger. You don't see it at that time, but as you go through life and you continue to grow and continue to do what's right for the world and for yourself, you do come out of it. You do survive, and you do help others through the process if that's what you choose to do.
Alan, I want to stop you just for a second there, and I'd like to ask you if you can tell us, you don't have to go into all the specifics, but what do you think led you down that path where you ended up in prison?
That is pretty easy. The 8-year term related to a spousal abuse situation where I was actually abused by my spouse, and it led into a car accident that ended up with somebody being killed. So, I mean, it's a long story in itself, but that's the ultimate aspect with spousal abuse.
So that sounds like a major hurdle to have to overcome. And then it sounds like this car accident where someone was killed, that's the second traumatic thing. And then a prison sentence is a third traumatic thing. I mean, how somebody could get over just one of those things, we could have a whole program on. So, and I know there's more, But how did you get through those 3 life-changing things? What did you do to keep yourself going?
I would love to say it was all myself, but it wasn't. It was the fact that I had support from other sources, even small amount of support that kept me going, friends, other family members, things of that nature, that did what they could, even though it wasn't what I wanted at the time. And to be clear about that, it's like when you're stuck in a prison situation, and you are in many respects fearing for your life in some situations, getting out is the most important thing on your mind. But family members, friends, lawyers, they're limited on what they can do. So you have to deal with that situation. So what they did do, their small amounts, was grateful and greatly appreciated, and did keep me alive in the mental aspect. And knowing that it was just temporary. Our life is such a long line of things that happen. This was just a bump on the road. And as long as I looked at it that way and knew that other things were down the road that would help me grow, help me become better, that in itself was the most positive aspect, knowing that this was just that bump in the road that I had to get through, had to learn from, had to grow from.
Wow. I'm so glad that you shared that about your friends and family who were around you. Did anybody turn I don't say that we don't need any names, but did people turn away from you in any capacity when some of these things were going on?
Yeah, most definitely, especially the prison issue. When I was dealing with that, it was understood I wasn't going to be going to prison for more than 6 months. But that was not the case. I actually did a full 8 years in it. And when the spouse was not there, even though I was advised they would be, that really was a major change. But that also helped me wake up to the situation of what was going on, the lack of them taking any responsibility for the situation and ignoring it. That was a huge issue that did push me to see other things that had been going on, had woken me up to what the situation was, and helped me heal.
Well, congratulations on that. If you would continue on with your story from there, because I know there's other elements of it, I'm going to spotlight you, and let's please continue.
Okay. So once I got out and was able to start doing things that I wanted to create, like I said, when you get out of prison, there's not a whole lot of support out there at that time. This was well over 10 years ago. So you are forced to either one, recreate yourself, or find things to do job-wise that is not otherwise available to you. By that point, I was already a writer. I'd already had many short stories published. I had a book published. So what I wanted to do was take everything I was learning from that process of being a writer, and I created my own publishing company. I did that for 5 years. Realized then, as a small publisher and also working with authors, how important marketing was, and the expense of marketing. If you don't have deep pockets, marketing can be overwhelming for you. And that's why, so many people do go to traditional publishers, because of those deep pockets and what they can do for you. But as an indie author, it's much more difficult and stuff. So I ended up shutting down my publishing company, totally went bankrupt over it, lost everything simply because I didn't have the funds to properly do what needed to be done. So I ended up being homeless at that point. Was homeless for 5 years while I recreated again, what I wanted to do to help people. I created the Texas Authors Association, which was a marketing group to learn, bring in the people to help teach authors how to better market and sell themselves and their books, which was so critical, especially at that point of POD becoming so popular and stuff. So during the time I was unemployed, I did that. I also created my 2 nonprofits, Drop Everything and Read Texas, and the Texas Authors Institute of History, which is a museum for Texas authors. Then I started working on other projects, all related to helping authors to succeed, having more visual aspects, being able to get out there and let people know they exist. So I've been doing that now for 10 years. We're into our 11th year of doing it. We've had great success in doing that. It's been quite interesting, quite a challenge, and we're still moving forward, still doing things, still creating things. I've created the only bookstore in the world that pays authors up to 80% of their world or the retail sell price of their books. Help them learn who's buying their books, help them market their books. We've created the authors marketing event at campus online. Like I said, the bookstore B4R.store. The museum is still growing. We have authors from well over 200 years in there, and we're still adding things to it. That's a long-term project. The Drop Everything and Read Texas is also dropping Everything and Read Indy. We do it at our own TV and radio show. So we do a lot, and we've had great success in helping the authors along the way. And that's something I always love doing. I don't get paid well for it, but I love doing it. And that's part of that craziness. And it's like, people continue to say, why are you doing this? Why are you going crazy doing this? And it's because I get the goosebumps, the thrill, the excitement, the joy of knowing that authors are succeeding because of what I do.
That's amazing. I mean, truly amazing. I want to kind of unpack some of that. So let's go back to now where you lose everything and you have to file bankruptcy. How did you then envision that you were going to be able to start over again? Because we have a lot of people during this pandemic who've also lost their businesses or lost their job, lost their career, and they're struggling with so many things in addition to that. So what kept you going, and what can you share with others to help them?
Having the background with the publishing really helped a great deal, because I was able to still help people get their books published, even though I wasn't doing it for them. We worked with a lot of people in a lot of different genres and varieties, illustrators, the editors, all that. So I had all of that to start with, which helped a great deal. Taking that and then developing the organization around that was easier than starting from scratch. And I'm very grateful for that. But when you're stuck sleeping in a storage unit or in your car, it is a challenge, and you do have to continue to develop and work with things. So you really have to have access to computers, to the telephone, to whatever you need. And keeping that going is a challenge and quite interesting aspect. But it comes back to, this is only temporary. This is only, that short moment of life. If you keep things in that perspective, you know that you can continue to develop. And there's times I admit, in 10 years, it's like, okay, why aren't we further ahead? Why aren't we where I think we should be? And the answer really comes down to is because you're not ready for it, or it's not time. And that's tough. I mean, you've got to listen to your inner voice on that and really stay connected to who you are, to your spirit. All the outside words that you hear from people and stuff can be very negative, can be very detrimental to your mental state and stuff. You have to listen to who you are inside and believe in yourself. If you don't, all that outside chatter will hurt you. And there's times that, I allow that outside chatter to kind of stall me, is a good way to put it, or slow me down. But again, it's just going back into the self and listening to your heart, to your gut, to your spirit, and moving forward, knowing that what you're doing is helping. The universe will show that. There's times that I get really frustrated and I want to give up, and then I'll get an email from somebody saying, because of you, this, and this happened, or because you created this event, I was able to do this. And that's what it's all about. So that's that craziness and that greatness that combined and stuff. And there's a lot of people that go through that. I mean, I'm going to use Simon, the gymnast lately, and I'm forgetting her name at the moment. But
Simone.
Simone, right. She was going through twisties, where she was struggling with outside interference as well as herself, but she ended up listening to what her heart, her gut, her mind was saying, and she did the best from that perspective. She ended up competing at the end, and she got a bronze. She's gone down in history now as one of the most medaled gymnasts that we have, along with a couple others. But she listened to her heart, to her gut, to her soul, and did what she felt was best for her. And that's really what it is for everybody. You've got to listen to yourself and block out all that excess noise. Yes, some of that excess noise can be beneficial as far as guidance or giving you an idea, but they're not the ones that are really telling you what's going on. You've got to listen to your soul, your spirit.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. It's an incredible journey you've been on. We need to take a break, and we'll be right back. We're going to listen and watch this beautiful music video that I'm hoping will instill light and love. It's the Debutantes. You can find them over on Instagram, Victoria and Lavinia. And again, it's Debutantes. That's where you can find them. And the name of the song is Paradise. We'll take a look, and then we'll be back with Alan for more conversation. Stay with us.
Paradise, I'd rather
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello and welcome back to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. You are watching the Underdog Show. And my guest, Alan, shared with us in the first segment that he certainly has been through a lot of adversity in his life. He was in prison for 8 years. He had a business that he really enjoyed and then ended up having to go bankrupt. He was homeless for a period of time, and yet his focus is on helping other people, specifically in the literary world. Alan, welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I want to talk a little bit about the period of time that you were homeless, because you were very productive in a situation where others may not have had the drive that you had to continue to take care of yourself and also help others. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you were able to still have a business while you were homeless?
Sure. It wasn't easy. I'm going to be honest with that. Thankfully, I already had a computer and a phone and things of that nature when I did go into the bankruptcy. So that allowed me to still go on. A lot of people who become homeless end up losing everything. And they can allow that to guide them into a negative aspect or a positive aspect. It really comes down to them. And I see a lot of people, and I still communicate with a lot of people who are homeless, that have gone both directions, have allowed that negative to just continue to foster and to grow and to keep them bound to being homeless, while others have done, like I have, chosen to move forward, chosen to use what they do know, and to grow. And to be clear, I don't have a college degree. I was not privileged to be able to go to college, even though I had the grades for it. I was not of that time period where grants and various forms of payment were available to people that are available now. So I didn't have that option at that point in time. So I have to use what I do know. And I'm a street smart type of guy where I get in there, I learn, I grow from what I do, grow from what I experience and stuff, and use that to help me help others. Real quickly, you played a video, and I wanted to bring back to that aspect. Words are very important, not only spoken, not only sung, but also written. And all those words can either direct people to the negative or to the positive in many aspects. We see that in politicians. Right now we've gone through the political years of Trump, where we've seen that in action on both levels and stuff. Using those words and surrounding yourself with those positive aspects helps you maintain that positive road. Music is a good example of that. One of the projects I'm working on is a spiritual play that's pure music, and it's totally different than anything that's been around. And it's from the various songs that I've listened to over the years that have helped me to stay positive, helped me to grow. You never know where you're going to get those words of encouragement. It could be a book that you read. It could be a poem. It could be, the music that you hear. It could be almost from any source. And using that positive aspect is what's so important. It's what helped me stay focused and to move forward. Like I mentioned earlier, all that negative talk around you can bring you back to, total disarray, confusion, frustration. But again, choosing what you listen to, listening to yourself, your inner self, is really what that makes the difference. It really does make a world of difference for who you are and what you want to achieve.
Great direction and great advice. You are accomplished in your own right now with the things that you've had published. Can you talk a little bit about your work there?
Sure. I've been really honored to not only win short story awards, a book award, a speaking engagement award, a whole bunch of things. What I write depends on the moment. Two things that I'm currently working on is the book called I'm Crazy Great, which is about all this change and challenge that I've gone through. Another thing is The Author's Revolution, which is a book about empowering authors to take control of their financial aspect. But I've written spiritual thrillers, I've written gay thrillers, I've written children's books. So I write a variety of things, and it all depends on what the message is I want to share at that time. And I believe that's the case with a lot of authors. What is the message they want to share, or what is the story they want to share at that time? And you do see a lot of authors changing genres because they have different aspects of what they want to share. So I love doing that. I mean, it's great passion. I've taken some of them off the system right now because I also know as a writer, I've grown so much more that I can rewrite those stories and make them better. But currently out there is the Author's Revolution Workbook, which helps authors. Then I also have Extinguishing the Light, which is a spiritual journey while somebody's in prison. So I used what I knew and put it to work. And there's other things, like I said, my short stories are out there. There's a lot of different little things out there as well.
And I'm wondering if you would share with our audience the fact you were in prison and you had to obviously deal with a lot of things while you were there, right? Giving up the life that you had and then being with people you don't know. Maybe there's a fear factor. So when someone comes out of prison, what would you recommend for them to do, like the steps that they should take to try to reintegrate into society?
Thankfully, from the time I came out to the time now, and it's changed even more over the years for a lot of different people, definitely look into the resources that are available, both spiritually as well as economically and stuff. Work with those services. First off, don't feel anyone owes you anything, because nobody owes you anything, no matter if you've been to prison or not. Nobody owes you anything other than respect. And in times, respect has to be earned. You have to show that you're worthy of that respect as well. But look at what's available, work with what's available, choose your path that you are confident you can succeed in, and go for it. Reach out to other people that are out there, whether you're reading their books or calling them and saying, hey, or emailing and saying, this is my situation. You've been there before. Do you have any guidance? Do you have any suggestions? There's a lot of resources out there. You just have to be willing to look for it, to use it, and to continue to grow with it. Just because you were in prison doesn't mean your life is over. That's just not the case. It doesn't matter what age you come out of prison. Somebody who can been in prison for a lifetime, they tend to go back quicker simply because they're more comfortable in that situation. The world changes. In the 8 years I was in, the world had changed, a lot. So those that have been in there for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, yes, it has changed a lot. But it all depends on what you want to accomplish. And I know I've said this a lot, but it's really a positive aspect. What can you do to help the world change for better, to help other people not go to prison? That's a really good key aspect that you need to look at as well. If you would rather just go back to prison, then just turn yourself back in. Don't hurt anybody to do it. Just turn yourself back in and say, this is where I can only exist. There's been a lot of people who've done that, unfortunately. But if you're coming out and you want to succeed, you want to grow, there's plenty of resources out there, and definitely use them.
Thank you, Alan. Now, I want you to just talk to our audience that has a book somewhere that they started writing. Maybe it's on a shelf, it's under the bed, it's in their computer, and they haven't finished it, or they started a short story or even a poem. How can they move forward? How do they take that fear and that wall that's in front of them, that writer's block, to take to the next step to actually get some published work?
You said the key word there, fear. My first book that I wrote 3/4 of it in a matter of weeks. But it was that fear that kept me holding on to it for 4 years before I finally finished it. And you have to get over the fear. No matter what you choose to do in life, there are going to be people who are going to be negative towards you, and those are going to be people positive. But neither of them matter. It's really what you believe. You wrote it for a reason. As long as that reason is valid for you and you believe it's going to help somebody, finish it. Doesn't matter how old it is or anything. You can go back and rewrite it, recreate it, and a good editor will help you through that process. So definitely use them. And that was one of my mistakes in the beginning, is I didn't use a good editor. And that's why I've taken so many of them off the system, because I need to go back and do that. But no matter what it is, if you feel there's still valid reason for it, finish it out. If you don't, then start on a new one. There's so much in life that people can write about, whether it's personal or fantasy or whatever. Do it. Just continue writing. Even if it's just a journal every night, you just write a couple pages. You never know where inspiration will come from, or that muse will come from, to help you finish and create something that is wonderful and other people will enjoy reading.
Alan, what do you think about the fact, one of our guests who's an author, she thinks that it's a great idea to carry a notebook with you, because you never know where inspiration is going to come from. And if you have it there, you can write down whatever it is that comes to mind.
Yes, most definitely. A notebook is good. I use my cell phone. It's always handy. So I will say, hey, Siri, take this note, and I'll jot some notes down and stuff. You never know where a story idea comes from. Not too long ago, I was driving down a highway to an event, and I saw this particular building on the side of the road, and it gave me a story idea. So I created a short story for it, a thriller. So yeah, you never know. So whatever item you choose to use, whether it's a journal, a small little notepad, the good old pen and paper. I still write my books out by hand before I type them up. So I'm very familiar with having those available. Whatever it is you use, electronic, paper, whatever, definitely keep them handy, because you never know when a story idea will come in handy.
And as we close out the show, I would love for you to educate our audience on the difference between publishing a book yourself on Amazon or working with a publisher. Can you walk us through the pros and cons?
I actually do a class on this. It's called To Publish or Not to Publish. The question is how to publish. There are three aspects to publishing these days. You have the traditional, which is working with a publisher who's going to publish your book for you. You have the hybrid, which is a combination of both. And then you have the self-publish, where you do everything and stuff. You have to decide how much work you want to put into it. That's really what's going to determine which route you're going to do. If you've written a book and you don't want to do anything else with it, then a traditional publisher is the best route to go. Search it out, find the one that works for you. If you're more on the hands-on type person, but you have limited time, then a hybrid is good for you. In other words, they're the ones that will help work with you, and they'll charge you for certain fees and stuff to get it done. But it's a good balance between those two. But if you're the hands-on that really wants to have it at it, all aspect of control for it, which means the cover designs, the editings, all of that, then self-publishing is the route to go, because you'll get your reimbursement for that in your time and your value. But be prepared to work. Writing is a small fraction of today's publishing world. Marketing is, some people say 75%, some people say 90% of the work. And it's true, because you have to get people to know you exist. And marketing is so critical to that. So if you go traditional, you're going to have a good support team behind you. Even the hybrid has good support staff that you're going to pay for. But then if you do traditional, reach out to those organizations like ours, the Authors Marketing International. There's so many writers groups that can help you through that. Use them, work with them. It makes your life a lot easier to go through the process.
Thank you. Alan, one thing that I'd love to just discuss with you is sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to make a fortune. I'm going to have this huge influx of cash that comes my way. But that's not really the case in most instances, correct?
Oh, sadly, that is so true. It is not the case. You're looking at 1% of the writing world gets that nice big check. Most, 99%, yeah, you do not get that big check. Even some traditional publishing now, those checks have shrunk down because it's such a large market. I mean, 1 million books a year being published. So you have a lot of competition out there. And if you're not out there working it, you're not going to get anything, regardless if you're traditional or self.
But the good news is what you get by publishing a book is you get credibility. You could get speaking engagements, and you can get recognized in a way that you wouldn't be otherwise, correct?
You're absolutely right. And to that point, we're working on a project where we're asking experts from the publishing world to submit just one chapter, the chapter that they are specifically an expert about, what, something in that publishing world, whether it be writing, marketing aspects, whatever it is. And that will give them more credibility because they're focused in on that one thing they know they are really an expert at. There's so many books out there, how to write a book, how to market a book, that are written by one person, and that one person's really not an expert in all those aspects. So in our project, we're focusing in on one person, one subject matter that they're an expert about, combining it together. And as a group project, they're all sharing it, they're all helping support each other. So businesses can definitely do that for themselves. They can write a book about something they're an expert about. It does add to the credibility. It does show that they do know what they're doing. And believe me, the critics will come out and say, no, this person is way off base, and they'll let people know about it. But most of the time, they do see that person is an expert, and it does push them to another level of success.
Thank you for sharing all of that wonderful information with our audience. And Alan, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you, and who should contact you?
Anyone in the writing world, whether new or experienced, that want help with marketing, they can definitely reach out to us through the authorsmarketing.org website, or my personal website, bourgeoismedia.com. Bourgeois is just like the bourgeoisie, so you can refresh your history class and use that. You're welcome to call me at 512-554-9560. I'm open pretty much anytime during the day. If I don't get back to you real fast, be patient. I will get back to you. I'm pretty good about that. The email address you see at the bottom of the screen, bourgeoismedia@outlook.com, or authorsmarketing@outlook.com. Anyone is welcome to reach out to me if they're looking for help. I'll give them guidance accordingly. They can schedule appointments on my website for a free 15-minute chat and go from there.
And Alan is also available on social media. He's on LinkedIn. You can reach out to him there as well. Alan, thank you so much for being here today on USA Global TV. I want to let some people just joined us. If you go over to our YouTube channel or Facebook, LinkedIn, any of the places where we stream, you can watch the show from the beginning. That's USA Global TV, and that's on YouTube. Thank you again. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I really appreciate your transparency and sharing your story with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you. Bye, Alan.
Bye-bye.
We've had two wonderful shows today, and we've got some other shows coming up. We have the Business Talk Show with my co-host, Mr. Al Cini, and our guest, is Rachel Dialto. And then that's at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 7 p.m. British Summer Time. At 4 p.m. Eastern Time, we have A Better You, lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. And our two expert presenters today are Red O'Laughlin and Mike Boisenall. And then at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 10 p.m. British Summer Time, we have In the Name of Love with my co-host, Kimmy Seltzer, and our guest, Deborah Roth. We're really happy that our audience is growing so much. We're international. If you'd like to be part of our network, if you'd like to follow us on our newsletter, the Global Post, which comes out every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, please do email me, Jacalyn at drjacalyn.com. Jacalyn at drjacalyn.com, and we'll be happy to put you on the list where you can be kept with updates of what's going on around the world and what USA Global TV is up to and how we can bring value to you and your world. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Alan. Take care. I'll be back for the business show in roughly an hour and 20 minutes.